ahead.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Young and Indigenous. Today I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Nish Romero. I'm a Nooksack carver, a Coast Salish carver, and you're all in my shop today.
Now you introduce yourself.
Do I have to?
Bro.
Because
I did that over here.
Because I don't know you.
As a carver/artist, what's your daily routine?
Daily routine is usually I'll wake up at like 6. My alarm will go off at like 7:30, and then I'll get up, use the bathroom, take a shower and brush my teeth, get breakfast, and then come in here and start working. Usually occasionally I'll smoke before I come in here, or, go hang out at the coffee shop for longer than I should, but for the most part, yeah, just come straight out here.
What's the difference between traditional Salish and Northern Alaskan art styles?
The biggest difference is just the shapes. The primary shapes for Salish art is, like a trigon, crescent, circles, and then, the main shapes for a lot of like form line and Northern art is like the U shapes and the ovoids and stuff like that. But a lot of the flow that they have for their stuff, like we use that quite a bit, like in our own art, like, for like even this mask that I'm working on now, like a lot of the features on it, have like Northern influence on it, like the pronounced cheekbones and the contour and making it look like a real face, like that's more of a Northern practice than Salish. But the shapes and everything that's going to be used in it are mostly Salish.
That's cool. How long have you been carving for?
A little over a year. Seriously carving and like really like getting into like this type of stuff, a little less than a year though.
Who taught you?
I learned over in Vancouver with Jonas Jones, and we both were learning under Ray Natoro for a while there, and then I mostly am under Jonas Jones. I mostly learn from him and hang out with him and start projects and, do a lot of bigger stuff with him. Sometimes I still work with Ray, though.
Are there any lessons that have stuck with you?
Yeah. The lessons that, really stick with me are, like, the ones that more teach about, like, the cultural aspect of being a carver. There's, like, we're just tools to the cedar. We're not really, like, yeah, we come up with the ideas, but it's more just like the cedar tells us what it wants on there. Mm-hmm. And so listening to the wood kind of is like the biggest lesson you can learn. And there's some people who like can't learn that lesson, or it's a little harder to hear it. But I've been fortunate enough to, I guess, be able to see it or whatever.
And why do you do what you do?
In the beginning, when I first started, I give a lot of credit to Ray and Jonas for taking me under their wing, like on a whim. They didn't really question anything. But, when I first started, I tell Jonas this all the time. I was in a pinch. I went over to his house and I started learning how to make a mask and carve with him. And then, I had a lot of bills due. I was, in debt on my credit cards, and then I just asked him if they had any work lined up or if I can get a job. And then, it was pretty much the saving grace was just fully diving into carving. And in the beginning, they only get paid like $15 an hour Canadian, so like $10 American. But after like the first week, I kind of realized that I wasn't really there for the check. I was there for, whatever this was. And then I really got into it, and then my family told me that my great-grandfather was like a master carver, Spud Cooper, And from there, I just kind of thought to myself, I think this is supposed to be where I'm at. And, you know, one thing led to another, and it has taken care of me in a good way, and I'm able to support myself one way or another.
What's your favorite part of the carving process?
My favorite part of the carving process, probably like that like middle stage where it goes from looking like a hunk of wood to like actually looking like something. You know, like this piece, it started out as just like a thick slab of cedar, and then, you know, you turned it, and then it became a circle, and then there became a smaller circle inside of it, and you shaped everything out, and then now there's a face on it. And so like that middle stage where it starts looking like the face is going to come out of it, that's like my favorite part, because that's where, like I said earlier, the cedar shows you what kind of face it wants. Mm-hmm. And so just looking at it in that spot where it's, you know, you're rough it out and get it to, you know, where like here, and then you start to see like the cheeks will come out, and then there are the eyes, what kind of eyes it wants to have, or what kind of mouth it wants to have. You know, if you want to, like on this one, I'm going to put hair on it, like carve hair into the forehead. But stuff like that, and then it starts to show you like pretty, like halfway through the process there. And so that's probably my favorite part, when it starts coming, because then all like the ideas start flowing, and then, and then you know, there's times where I'm in here in that spot and I can't leave the shop. It'll be like 2 a.m. and I'm still working. Forgot to have dinner. Don't even think I had lunch.
What inspires your work?
Some pieces will be like, I'll get inspired by like old stories or stuff like that from like here, like our Nooksack stories and stuff. But for a lot of my artwork, I do a lot of like, it's like how I'm feeling, like in the moment. Or like when I start a piece, you know, a lot of it will be like what's going on around me, or, you know, like if like I'm having like a certain feeling at the time, it'll just come out, and then that'll be like what the mask is or what the panel I'm working on is. And so a lot of the inspiration just comes from like nature, I guess, natural ways.
That's cool. Do you have a message for other Indigenous youth?
Yeah, you know, if you don't know what you want to do, try everything. You know, if you try everything, you're gonna land on it. You know, I had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, when I was 18, I thought I wanted to start a shoe store. And then when I was 17, I kind of wanted to be an artist, but, you know, there was no way for me to understand the business side of it, or realize, or like no way for me to know that there's like a way to make a living. And, you know, I tried a lot of things from the time I was 17 to now. And then at 24 years old, I, you know, landed on carving. And it just so happened that there's a lot of like my family ties to it and stuff like that. What about you? What inspires you to be a weaver? Flipping on you now.
Flipping on me. What inspires me? So I started when I was 6, and I'm 22 now, so that's like 16 years, yeah.
Yeah, damn.
In a way, I think I feel more connected to my great-grandma. I use a lot of her designs in my pieces, I guess I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or a lot of like my work comes to me in dreams. I was just having this conversation with a non-native person yesterday, and they were looking at me like I was crazy, and I was like, dang, okay,
Yeah.
my bad.
No, I get that.
I'm not crazy.
Right, yeah, because it's hard to explain inspiration to like traditional stuff like that, right, to people who aren't traditional, because you know, Western is very different, like the artwork, right?
Yeah.
It's so different. That's what I've noticed too, is like when I first started with like carving and shit, and it was like I had a Western way of thinking of artwork. So like there's a lot of like blank areas or spaces where there's not any design on it, and I felt like I needed to fill it with, you know, like a trigon or something. Nana, come on. But yeah, so like what I was saying is that you know, like there would be times where like there's like a blank space on like a face or something like that, and I felt like I needed to fill it in with like a shape. But the reality is that's like learned from like a Western way of thinking, right? Like a Western art form. So I get what you're talking about. Like people think you're crazy when you're coming up with random ideas, or you dream it, or you see it somewhere out in nature. It's a real funny thing. Same with like the panel I just finished, the Change of Seasons, that one on the wall over there. And that one's like, I didn't really have any idea what I was gonna do with it. I just I bought the panel, like the circle, and then I just started scribbling. And then next thing you know, I saw something in the scribbles, and then they kind of flowed, and then I drew a center line on it, and I was like, okay, transfer it over, and then that's what came out of it. And then as I kept going, just throw it around.
It was really pretty.
Thank you.
What about like, I don't really know like how to phrase this, but like when you're working on traditional art and then like using traditional tools like an adze versus like the chainsaw, like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, I enjoy using the adze just because it's like, you can never be like too good at it. It's like always something you can improve on with an adze. But you know, using like modern tools and stuff, it's like, it's the more efficient way to do things, and then we pick up the traditional tools and we kind of pay homage and really get down to our roots and practice our traditions. And that's what makes it traditional, or keeps it kind of traditional, in my opinion. You know, for the most part, we're all contemporary artists. You know, we don't, for a lot of us, our work doesn't look the same as the artwork we see from like 300 years ago. And, you know, even like using our artwork to, like, for gallery purposes, like that's, you know, that's a contemporary thing, right? You know, because our carvings and stuff where they had a meaning and everything for our ancestors, and now it's just a means for us to express who we are. Just keep doing stuff until it looks cool.
Until it looks cool.
What about you?
I don't know. Usually I do something, if I don't like it, I take the whole thing apart and I restart the whole process.
Oh yeah, that's a big difference between our two practices,
Yeah.
right? Like, I can't just take the whole thing apart. But I watched a YouTube video of a carver over on Vancouver Island, and something he said in the video that kind of like really resonated with me was that there's no mistakes, there's only modifications. And so, like, you know, with the carving, you know, there's always more wood, there's always a way to fix like a mistake, right? Because that's true, there's no mistakes. It's just we have to kind of switch up the idea a little bit and kind of, I guess, play with it until it turns back into something that we like.
Do you ever speak to the wood while you're carving?
No.
Dang.
I'm not that, like I'm a pretty, like I guess I'm a religious or superstitious or spiritual person, but I'm not too far into it like that. It sounds crazy, like sometimes it talks to me though, like there's sometimes where it's like like how it's drawn on here now. Like I drew it on there, and really the only thing that, told me to kind of keep was the eyebrows. So like these eyebrows, they were up for debate, and that's like the wood kind of said, nah, you're gonna have to leave those. But how they're gonna go on there is a different conversation, because there's like different methods and different ways for artists to put the eyebrows on their piece.
Mm-hmm.
And for this one, we'll just have to I'll probably just relief carve it. So just carve around it and then kind of make them pop out. But I've done it in another way where you kind of carve the line around the eyebrow and then carve it in so that the eyebrow kind of sinks into the face a little bit.
Have you taught anybody yet?
No, I'm not really there yet. I've given pointers to like Roy and other people, and the Borsey boys come over and we'll talk about carving. But I'm not a master carver. I'm in my first year of carving still, and I'm not really in a position to teach anybody right now. Maybe in the future though, I can teach a few people here and there.
How does that happen? How do you get recognized as a master up here?
I don't really know. I just know I'm not one. Like the old saying, in 10,000 hours, you'd be a master at whatever you're practicing. But I don't know. I'm still an apprentice myself. I still, like the creative process is, it comes out of my brain, but I send it, I'll take pictures, I'll send it to my mentors, and I'll ask, is there anything you think I can fix?
Mm-hmm.
I think when I'm done doing that, then I'll maybe be in a position to kind of start maybe teaching people, where I can make my own decisions and my own kind of creative process.
You're willing to teach people though?
Yeah, if people are willing to learn. That's the thing though, is not too many people want to actually spend time and learn the craft. Yeah, for people have come and wanted to learn, but actually taking the time to get to this, it takes a little while, and it's hard to kind of stay interested if you're not really interested.
If you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of people a few people who see the lifestyle, that us as artists get to live. It seems cool on paper, we don't really have a schedule, we don't have a boss, we don't have traditional kind of methods of work. But what they don't see is that we also don't have vacation time. We don't have paid days off. We don't have sick leave. We don't have a Medicare plan. So with this profession and this kind of way of being, if you're not working, you're not eating. And so it's easy for people to be interested, but it's hard for people to kind of grasp the idea of what we are as I guess you could say professional. I'll just say quote unquote professional, just because this is what I do for a living. But getting someone to learn that it is a young man's kind of thing. You can't really have too much on your plate, because to be involved like that is a full-time commitment. It's this and nothing else kind of thing.
Yeah. For me, I find that it's hard for me to weave sometimes because I'm walking too much in the Western world. So I take months and months off, and it makes me feel so bad because
you just want to weave, right?
Yeah.
There's times too where we sell a piece, or we get paid good, and we'll just party for a month, we won't work for a little while, and then back to the grind after that, because like I said, we don't get paid time off, we don't get vacation time. It's all on us type thing.
Yep.
do cool stuff. It's like, it's for everything. If we do like anything cool, it turns into a party. Sometimes people come, sometimes people stand us up. Denise.
Stop using the government.
Do you guys celebrate when you like sell a piece or do stuff like that? Or just like sell a big piece?
I personally, not really. I don't. I just take a long break to the next one.
Yeah, that's real.
Well, thank you for speaking to us
Yeah,
and allowing us in your personal space.
Thanks for coming to speak to me and for being in my personal space.
And thank y'all for listening.
Hey, what up, y'all? Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. This episode was produced by Roy Alexander and Waikikia Curly Bear. The music for this episode was done by Zach Cohen and Roy Alexander. Huge shout out to our funders, the Initai Foundation and the Paul Allen Foundation. And another huge shout out to Nish Romero for sharing his cultural teachings and knowledge. The Instagrams for our socials and Nish's socials and Zach Cohen's socials will be in the description. Haishka for listening. Thank you.